this movie idea, and it just came to me as they do, very creative. And I thought a great idea would be to actually, as it flows through my mind, and it flows very fast, I just wanted to capture little aspects of it so I can continue working on it, and maybe share some of the intuitive channeling type of creative songcraft and screenwriting and storytelling and visionary skills that I have and how they work. So you can learn more about how my processes work in my brain, where it comes to just coming up with new ideas. We've got people in the world, they're amazing to me, that are so great at coming up with a plan, sticking it out, doing all these, sticking to goal tasks, time management, and they're so structured. And you probably know people like that, and you might be one of them. If you are, that's cool. I've got ADD, or ADD, ADHD. I'm high vibrationary, and very creative. And unless I've had my medication for ADHD where I can think quite clearly, even when I do have it, like I can do time management better. But when it comes to deadlines and stuff like that, I'm always like on that, or get everything done right up to that last minute. Otherwise, kind of a bit like not going to happen. But the creativity is there. If it's something that I just need to get done, I can do it. But if it's a lot of planning and stuff like that involved and things like that, and you want to see it through to a certain timeline and structure and stuff, it's not one of my strong suits. But everyone has strong suits that are different to other people's, and that's what we're all unique. Every being on this planet or that visits this planet, we're all unique. So what I wanted to do was create a screenplay, but it's not really a screenplay. So I'm thinking of like a kids animation, because cartoons had such a great impact on my life as a child. I remember watching Milo and Otis. I remember like these are the ones that like resonate a lot with me. Old Yeller, the Silver Brumby. There was Once Upon a Forest, which I think was a series that used to be on. Captain Planet, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and then a bit when I was a little bit older, there was Spirit, Studying of the Cimarron, and the Lorax. Coraline, I loved Coraline, and what's another one? Paper Prince, that was amazing. Then there was so this is one that was like really special to me too. It was The Rescuers, number 2. That was the one that was set in Australia. I love number 1 too, with Penny in it, and that little orphan girl, and she had to go and get the diamond from down. That was great. I love that when I was little. But number two was the one in Australia, and it was like the poacher people were like capturing the animals, and then the boy, he went and saved. At the start, I love that. Like there was that eagle flying through with the gold wings, and it's up there on its nest, and then that mean trapper poacher man, and he comes and he goes and throws his net over or something, and that little boy, he had a pocket knife. He was a little boy with a pocket knife. How cool is that? That just goes to show, like, where how much maybe smarter our kids were back in the day, but kids were like, they carried their pocket knives. They had them from scouts. They had their pocket knives in their pockets. They'd walk through the bush. They knew they'd be back before dinner. They had to be back before dark because of dinner. They'll get in trouble. But they'd wander through the bush. Like my dad, like Quaker, so that was all bush then. Like he'd just go out, like they'd go roo shooting and stuff like that. My uncle told me after my dad passed away that they used to go down to the river and stuff, and the birds would just fly down and fly all around him. And I think that's beautiful too, because my younger brother also had a really great connection with birds, and so did I. and he'd actually he raised a baby bird that he found and helped, and he'd let it fly around, fly over, and then he'd whistle, and it'd fly out of a gum tree, fly down and sit on his shoulder, like, hey babe, and then they'd snuggle in, and then the bird would fly off again. And like, this is a big part of, of us as Indigenous people, as Australians, old school Australians, Indigenous tribes from everywhere have been like hand in hand with animals for so long. And people that haven't like that haven't been Indigenous and that haven't actually like had that like history of culture where they spent so much time in the environment, maybe were those lucky ones that got to go camping with their families, or you know, maybe their parents took them to the beach all the time, or to the creek or the river, or to a park that they loved, or a wild like forest, and they got to go through tracks, or something beautiful around nature. It could have been a park in the city with just one giant tree that they loved, like, and they got to climb it and just sit in there and hug the tree. Like, I love trees, man. I love trees. Um, Now, rivers. I love rivers. I love animals. Ground, just touching the ground, looking up at the stars, having sunlight on your skin. It's beautiful. There's so much beauty in the world, and so I've got to also mention too. There's these people too. Okay, so we used to breed budgies. If we found a blue tongue in the backyard that had, you know, escaped dog attack, because like everything was getting built up then, we would get these blue tongues and stuff, and like we put them. We had a bathtub. It was all set up beautifully. Like it had leaves in it, in the bottom on the base, and then it had like half a log in there, so they had a little place to go and hide. And then would put bananas. They blue tongues. They love bananas. They love snails. Like we'd put all those little things in there for them, and so they had somewhere safe to go, and even breed if they were breeding or whatever. And then we'd let them off in the bush. We ended up taking the last one that we had all the way from Quakers Hill, which was getting the last of the bush really that was there, was getting developed at that stage. We sort of like, our backyard was like a quarter of an acre, and then our family sold off half of it, and then that last bit, Pa had like loads of sheds in the backyard, and it was a hoarder artist, creative man, very creative. It was amazing. Like probably the best drawer that I know, or one of, and painter, amazing painter. Um, and I know like I know a few really great ones, and I don't know, it's just like his artwork often depicted Indigenous people. Even though he, at this stage of my life, being a young primary school child, didn't know that I was Indigenous. I was never told I was an Aboriginal. I say like I'm actually an original custodian, because we are the original bloodlines and the oldest on Earth. So we believe strongly that as Indigenous custodians of the Earth, every person here on this planet, every being, brothers and sisters, and that it's our job to help guide everyone else through. There's a lot of spiritual people from everywhere. Like, doesn't matter, like if you grew up in the city or you grew up in the jungle. Like, everyone here is special. We're all special, and we're amazing. We've all got these amazing gifts. I want to share mine with you because mine are all different. And I would like to share my gifts with you, and sort of hopefully maybe just sort of inspire you to dream yourself, or support people that have this type of mindset. Because back in Egypt, and even 200 years ago in Australia, just prior to the first fleet landing, and our convict brothers that came pale and skinny, hungry for a feed, and bound in big thick metal chains. Oh my God. And on those ships that they sailed over in, horrible condition. They were like chained up in there, and it was like all disgusting, and it smelled horrible, and there was no fresh airflow, and these people were like, a lot of them had scabies, some of them didn't make the boat ride over, and those people, that's my, they're those English people, those convicts over there, like they're my family too, as well as the Indigenous people that greeted them on the shore, King Benelong and everyone else. And that ship that they sailed in, and those ships that they sailed in, were built by ship makers that cut down forests from trees that I love. In my Gadigal language, tree and skin is the same word. Now, in my family history, the Ords, which is my surname, were ship makers. So ship makers getting this wood from the forest, and me loving trees, and I don't like that sort of process of killing a tree. I hate it. It doesn't resonate with me. I have a different method of sustainable, 100% sustainable, uh, renewable wood resources, and that is the Indigenous custodial way. And that's basically you utilize fallen branches um, that have already fallen in the forest. You can carve out parts of trees when you're making canoes or wawies, or in New Zealand, the Māori say waka, like waka canoe. um, in yeah, so I mean, reclaimed wood. There's so much timber around, and people quite often they want to renovate and stuff, or like knock down an old, build for a new, or like make sure you're getting a demolition crew in that's going to utilize everything. My dad pulled up all these beautiful cedar planks from a house that was getting knocked down in Quakers Hill. He said it was beautiful, all the house, like all the stuff in it that they were knocking down. So he went there, and every single wooden plank got taken out. Like, and they, all that stuff, like, it should be reused, it should be salvaged, it's beautiful. Like, I love bamboo. I'm a bamboo lover. It grows so fast. And pandas like bamboo, and pandas are so cute. So imagine that. Like, let's say we were going to increase our bamboo production because we could use bamboo for eco-sustainable building projects. Yeah, they might not last as long as a metal concrete build, but metal concrete builds sometimes tend to not have the correct airflow. They crack. They can have sinkholes. They use a huge environmental impact to exploit these resources. Exploit you know metal, stainless steel. They use a lot of resources. Aluminium does, and then aluminium, you've got to always be careful because it's so toxic to produce. That toxic smoke that comes up and then has to be watered down because if you breathe it in, you die. They water it down into a sludgy paste and then like a sludgy liquid, and then that sludgy liquid has a very peculiar property. It's got a really, really, really high boiling point of 1,000 degrees Celsius. So they use it in nuclear core reactors to stop the core reactor from just like exploding basically, and so it keeps it stable. It's got that ability to stabilize something that much, like up to 1,000 degrees, which is pretty cool. But it's so toxic, it's so deadly to ingest. They used to use it in rat sack, rat killer, mouse killer. It's actually called sodium fluoride now, and you can find it still in some cities and country towns and places use it in their water supply. Sodium fluoride, but it actually rots your teeth out. There was a study done on it, but if you read the study correctly, all the people's teeth fallen out. So they had scaled it up as less decays because all the decayed teeth were already rotted out, so they didn't count those teeth in the study. And so then that study was used in modern dentistry in the Western world, and put into toothpaste. It's still in toothpaste today in a lot of places, and it will rot your teeth. It will leave children prone to tooth problems. Sometimes fluoride, you get fluoride staining, that white strip across your teeth. It'll be like yellow, white, yellow. I had that when I was little, so it shattered my confidence. Even though like I was a happy little girl, like smiling with that, by the time I actually realised that that one was there, I was pretty shattered. Okay, and so yeah, the sodium fluoride problem. Oh yeah. So I'm a creative person. Yeah, I come from a family of creative people, a long culture of dreaming and past lives of dreaming experiences from Lemuria and Atlantis, and being like some lifetimes. Like I've had people contact me. Oh yeah, I remember you. You're a high priestess in Lemuria and this and that and that. I remember being a visionary in Egypt before I end up becoming a part of the pharaoh's family, which was really cool. It was quite an experience in that lifetime. But prior to that, I would lay on a bed out. It had columns and stuff, and it was like beautiful and soft and with all these other girls, and would lay there and just like and enjoy the sunshine, and the sun would go on our pineal glands, and just like and we'd basically sit there and dream. We're really highly respected through the community. Basically treated like princesses, oracles. My father was, I think you'd describe him as his role in the community would be a lord or a carer or a custodian of that of the place that we are. He wouldn't have referred to himself as king, but that these days that probably would have been a more common way that someone would describe his role. But he was so noble and so passionate and caring for the community and people in our town. So yeah, us women, like young women, we would a lot of times it'd be girls and young women, and then it would have the older women too that would do it, and there would be some of them would be hundreds of years old, and just wise women with really long hair, and they'd been there for a long time, and very, very smart. And anyway, we'd all sit there and lay there, and we'd just dream. That's what we'd do. We'd lay there and dream. We'd have visions come to us. We'd do creation and telekinetic games, and we talked a lot with telekinesis. I mean, we talked a lot with telepathically. Sorry, we did games prior to that with telekinesis. We'd move large objects. I remember that from another life beyond. Probably the size of like the Easter Island statues. I'm assuming and we would actually with our mind just move them. It wasn't hard. It was so cool. I've done past life regressions now, so I remember some of these past lives and some of their things. I don't remember in great detail everything, but some of the past lives I've had, I've spent days and weeks of just sort of probing into them, remote viewing them, and you just relive parts of it, and you're like, oh wow, that's why I always loved that, or that's why that happened, and I really highly recommend that anyone that is interested in knowing where they were from and everything like that, go get a past life regression done. See who you were in your past lives. In between our lives, sometimes we come back straight away. Sometimes we just go back to heaven and chill, kick it. Some of us do a lot of different stuff, so it's precious. Excuse me. Some of us float around and go into the stars and watch over our loved ones, and others just be peace. It's a journey, hey. Anyway, so where was I up to? I do this all the time. I get sidetracked. I want to share with you this movie idea. Okay, I've talked to you about a lot of stuff. Um, if you were a fluoride taker, by the way, and you've ingested fluoride, look for Dr. Bronner's or Grant's or some other type of toothpaste out there. You can use charcoal. It's a bit abrasive, so you can't use it every day. I know that in the Middle East they use a stick. I'm not sure what it's called. Anyone's welcome to comment if they know. It's like a stick and that's got these little things and they clean with that. Indigenous communities also use shell grid. There's a lot of things you can use to clean your teeth. Some people do urine therapy if they've got toothache. That's a really old practice that's well known in India, and they'll gargle with that because uric acid is in basically every pharmaceutical medicine that works. So some smart cookie actually extracted that from urine at some stage and put it into medicine. So that's still used today. They use it widely. They use it widely in China. They collect the urine from males' cubicles in their urinary cubicles. So the men, they don't know, they're just going in for a pee, but all of the urine's collected up, and then they'll extract the uric acid out of it. Uric acid is actually blood. So what you're peeing out when you go to the toilet is blood. It's filtered blood through your kidneys. It's called ultra filter heart rate, I believe. Yeah, so anyway, I'm getting excited about this movie. Oh, so what other kids' movies were there when I was a kid that really I loved? Okay, Once Upon a Forest, there was what's it called? Fantasia, Fern Gully. Everyone that had Tom Williams in it. Please, you have to watch Fern Gully. It was great. What about the one with Bigfoot in it? What's that called? The Land Before Time or A Land Before Time? That was amazing. Blinky Bill, the first generation of Blinky Bill, the Australian Blinky Bill. G'day, mate, I'm Blinky Bill. I bet you heard of me. I'm living in Australia up a eucalyptus tree. Now, whoever came up with that, brilliant. Okay, anyway, so I'm gonna just sort of tell you what I'm thinking, seeing, feeling when I'm doing this. Okay, so this is what process I was using, and this is how it sort of came up. I was just looking at this really cool lounge, and I'm like, this is so cool. And then, of course, I started doing this. That noise made me think about ants pitter-pattering their feet, and I like ants. I used to sit under a gum tree at school, and I would feed the ants. Sit under a big old gum tree. It was hundreds of years old, and by myself, and I'd sit there, and the kids were playing, and I was at peace. I had a little girl that I used to play with too, but I was just sitting there, and I just share my food with the ants because I like watching them eat the food, and I felt like I was being kind by, I'm so big, I have so much, and they're little ants, and I just take a little bit of my food off and just watch them grab it and carry it into their houses, and I really liked them. And I liked being under the tree too. It was really relaxing for me. I love those trees, and I love that land. And that was on my dad's tribal land too, the Darrick land, which is the Quakers Hill, where I mentioned that before. It's just outside of Sydney, and it's vast. But anyway, so these are the things and the visions that I was seeing when I came up with this, and I just want to describe it because normally I draw stuff down and things, but I don't have a pen and paper on me right now, so I thought I'll make this video. So it might be good. It might be a good thing. It might help you to try a new method of your creative processes. So yeah, let's do this. So it's so there's ants, and the ants are scuttering across the ants' nests, and maybe they're walking under a gum tree. There might be a little kid sitting under a tree, and they get a little bit of the food that they're eating, and they just drop it on, and you hear a bit of food just falls right on the ground there, and then the ants come and I'm thinking about an ant looking up at this child with these beautiful big eyes, going, "Oh, thank you." And then the kid's like, "That's okay, little ant." And then the ants carry the food off into the ant's nest. And then I think about the sound of raindrops, those first heavy raindrops, as they fall onto the ground. Might fall into the dirt, and the smell of the dirt. I love that smell of the minerals and the rain. And then the little kid might look up and go, "Oh, it's raining," and then they go to like get up and run inside where it's dry, and they go, and they're like, and then maybe the next thing you hear is the kid make a few steps, like they're making a few steps to go towards that, and then you'll see the horses, and it can be someone that's got a horse and they're riding down the road. It's a dirt road, a dirt track, because this is set a little bit, and it's set in the last 200 years, but this is Australia, okay? So someone's on a horse, and they're just riding the horse down the street, and the horse is going a bit fast. Oh, because it started raining on the. It can be a young girl. She can be just, I don't know, a young girl. My nan said she started riding a horse when she was 3, so she rode it bareback because she didn't have a saddle. And I think the horse was actually used to pull the cart, the family cart, because they only had one horse. And she didn't have shoes because this was in the Depression, and her dress was made out of the hemp sack, which was an old flour sack. And she used to balance on a wire fence that wasn't a barbed wire fence, just a wire fence that kept the sheep and the cattle in. And she was 3, and she could walk along that barbed wire fence, that little strip. I mean, not barbed wire, the wire fence, that little strip of wire. My nan at 3 could walk across it without falling. 3-year-olds wouldn't be able to do that. Some would. Or nor would many people let their 3-year-old ride bareback across a paddock, on a draft horse or a quarter horse or whatever it was, a massive big horse. Now, this is how capable our children were prior to vaccines and fluoride. No, I don't know. Why do you reckon this is? Anyway, could have been the Indigenous DNA Nan had. Or maybe it's just because that's what people did. They let their kids live and experience things and help them. The kids learned how to ride. They didn't have much in the Depression. It was a hard time for Australia, the Great Depression. So there wouldn't have been many toys around, I could imagine. And my nan and my pa both grew up on bread and dripping, which was like just like bread. And then they would get the dripping out of the it was whatever fat, oil and stuff was left in the bottom of the pan, and that was like, oh goody, bread and dripping, they'd be so excited. Well, that's a good way to not have oil clog up your sinks. But anyway, the oil that we use these days isn't really that healthy unless you get healthy oil. And then I don't know, maybe the organic food back then, the organic everything was healthier than today. I don't know. But Nan used to say the water came out of her tap was brown because it was full of minerals. Can you imagine having water that looked brown that come out of your tap, but you drank it and it nourished your body so much, just nourished you? And remember that they didn't put anything in the water to treat it those days. So that was living water. That water had microorganisms in it, which would have been great for the gut. It would have had all these minerals and this microflora enriching stuff. It would have been perfect to drink. Even like using a bit of a filter paper, coffee paper over a cup and pouring that mineral-rich water in, that would be enough to take most, if not all, of any pathogens that may potentially be like cause a bug or something, a tummy bug or whatever. That would be enough to get that out. You wouldn't really even have to boil it. But
saying that if you want to do most things, most bacteria and stuff is killed at 40 degrees Celsius. So you would actually be able to, just put living stuff back into your body. And you think about the mass marketing of probiotics these days and prebiotics. Well, not enough people are doing prebiotics. But those probiotics, all they've gotten at is like, what, or maybe if you're lucky, 8 different strains of, they might say, oh, they contain, 120 billion good bacteria or whatever. But there's only like a few different strains in there. And unless you're getting one out of the fridge, more than likely the one on the shelf is full of dead. You can do tests. There's tests on YouTube. You can have a look at to see if you've actually got living bacteria. You've got living what's it called? Probiotics, or the probiotics have already died in your actual supermarket. But it's a rip-off. Seriously, like if you got loads of money, get a good quality one. If you don't, I mean, I used a decent one. I used a baby probiotic because it just had more strains in it, and I was taking that. But the most important thing is to remember, never take antibiotics unless it's absolutely bloody necessary. Because if you had antibiotics when you were a baby, holy moly, it would be the worst move. In England, it's actually illegal, I'm pretty sure, a criminal offence to give a calf, a baby cow, antibiotics because you destroy its microbiome and you end up with these sick cows. You don't ever want to strip your microflora at birth. Don't, if your child's born via C-section or whatever, and they try, and the hospital suggested to put it on a drip, for example, of antibiotics, you're actually destroying your child's microbiome. Like, it's the most evil thing that's currently being done in Western medicine. Actually, I take it back. There's so much evilness there. Anyway, no, I just think research into it. I mean, we have this amazing microbiome for a reason, and kids need all of that living flora inside their guts at birth. Never, ever, 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 ever give them antibiotics at birth. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Who am I to give this medical advice? Well, I'm going to say you're more than welcome to research into it on your own accord. Go seek guidance from a naturopath. But you just got to remember that doctors in Western medicine are all taught by their pharmaceutical sales rep. So unless they've got like a good pharmaceutical sales rep that's, bringing good products in to the doctor's clinic and stuff like that, and promoting those, your doctor's not going to know about good treatment options. They're only going to know about what has been pushed by the pharmaceutical sales rep. So, and a lot of pharmaceutical groups now have more natural treatment lines and options available because people are becoming more health conscious and wise with their bodies and how important our bodies are and our healths are. But there's still a lot of dangerous medication out there. And so just, keep your lookout for those healthy options as they come available, the safer ones. Ask what's in the drugs you're taking, and have a look at on the FDA website at the black box warning for anything you might have. Make sure that death isn't one of the side effects, because if death is one of the side effects, don't take it. That's silly. I'm an Indigenous doctor. It's called a Nungankari. We do energy healing. We do bush medicine, herbal medicine. We look after people with all different types of stuff. But the thing that sets us apart is, as Indigenous doctors, we are not allowed, and nor does it feel right to ask for money for healing people. It is such a beautiful gift to be able to heal someone when they're sick. Like when a mum, she's written on Facebook, one of the mums, my sister's friend, oh, my son Lakin's sick again. Now, poor Lakin, like he's a beautiful kid, beautiful, beautiful kid. But he, of course, fully vaccinated. Now, he was in and out of the hospital all the time, just like, or he'd always have fevers or something like that. And not all the time. Well, to me, it was all the time, but it was normal for the amount of time typical kids spent in and out of doctor clinics and hospitals, I guess, in Australia these days, because we've got quite a high vaccine schedule here. So the government made a rule. The Corporation of Australia pushed an illegal thing through. But this this particular prime minister actually got fired. His wife was high up in a pharmaceutical company, and they were pushing vaccines and making them mandatory, basically, for these kids to get free or subsidized childcare, which was always free in Australia, by the way. We never charged for childcare or education. It was always free for the Indigenous people. And anyone who came to our country as guests from anywhere around the world always got free education too, and they got free childminding, food, accommodation. We did everything for free because we didn't charge for anything. If you were hungry, there'd be men out, hunting, women out catching fish and gathering, and some of the women were better hunters than the men. Some of the men were better at the storytelling stuff, the Yellamunda and the Yellamundi stuff, we all have different roles and strengths and skills and responsibilities in our community. But our Australian culture was pretty much flawless as the oldest culture and the oldest society that had been running on on Earth, and still is. We didn't have prisons, nor need for them. We had no homeless people, free housing, free education. Not one body of water across our land was ever destroyed or contaminated, because our waste management system was so great and very simple to use. We had these piles of it was like sand and ash, and then we'd have a pile of sticks on top of that, and they'd be lined up along every clan and on all the riverways and stuff. And you would go to a space where you could use the bark and then wrap up your waste in leaves or bark, and then you would just burn it at the end of every night on that pile of sticks.